Sam Barr Tsanasnat Jochs Amishson. My name is Sam Barr. I come from Samish, from the Varick family line. We are going into the Indian tea patch to gather some tea. There are many names for this plant. In the Lekwungen dialect, it is known as Makwamilch. In the Chute Seed dialects, it is known as Quilot. Both of these Coast Salish names for this plant translate to marsh, because that is the only place this plant grows. The various English names for this plant are Labrador Tea, Bog Tea, Marsh Tea, and Indian Tea.
So one of the first things that we want to do when we get into the patch is open up with a prayer. What I'd like to do is sing a cleansing song that's a song of my own, and if any of you would like to use this song when you gather, you're welcome to. Just make sure to acknowledge where the song comes from. It comes from Sam Barr from Samish, and this is a cleansing song. Ho, 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 ho.
Our Indian people have used this plant since time immemorial. I am thankful for my old ones who have taught me about this plant, and I'm thankful to be able to share some of these teachings with those who might need it. Our ancestors used this tea like a multivitamin, providing plant nutrients such as vitamin C all through the winter when fresh-growing edible plants have gone dormant. It helps with coughs and colds. It is a blood purifier and can aid with arthritis. Also, the tea can be used as a marinade for meat. Be careful not to drink too much of it until you know how it will affect you. And use caution if serving this to elders unless they are accustomed to it. This plant contains low levels of the terpene called leadol. The flowers have the highest concentration of this leadol. Some people say that it has a relaxing effect, and some say it is stimulating. The effect may vary person to person or by dosage. It has a deep, earthy flavor that is grounding for the spirit. It also makes a wonderful gift or giveaway item.
Aquacha, makwat, nostalgia, quiltachos, ashatia, makwam ilch. So hello everybody, welcome friends and relatives. We are here today at a Labrador tea patch. The great thing about harvesting Labrador tea is that you don't need that much. You really just need a bag. You also need some good boots, highly recommended. And then you just need a tea patch, and that's really all you need to go out and pick tea. So this is what the plant looks like, the flowers, and the leaves have a brown fuzzy underside. The brown fuzzy underside is on the mature leaves. If you're looking at the younger fresh growth, it will have white undersides. This is last year's growth, this is this year's growth. Notice the two different undersides. Sweet girl. If the plant looks just like this, but it has white fuzzy undersides, that is not Labrador tea. That is bog laurel, and it is actually poisonous. And the bog laurel, instead of white flowers, has purple flowers. If you're harvesting in the late spring, early summer, the flowers will still be there. When it comes to the flowers, I've heard that the flowers and the flower buds can make the stomach upset. So you want to avoid picking the flowers and the terminal bud. And that also leaves the plant a chance to produce the seeds. The best time of the year to harvest is in the late spring and also in the late summer. In the late spring, it's flowering, and it's really easy to identify from those white flowers. And once you get into fall, you might find marsh cranberries also, which grow in the same habitat. Finding Labrador tea patches can be really tricky. Maybe one of your old folks has told you the location of a place where they've gathered. You can also reach out to your tribal natural resource department. They will probably know where the bogs are, and they might be able to help you. A lot of times you can find these bogs near lakes. That's a really great place to find them. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about how to harvest the tea. So a lot of times when I pick, I like to leave some of the bottom leaves on there, and I'll just pick the tops. You can get these fresh baby growth right from the top of the plant. But this is actually a plant that I harvested last year, and the more mature leaves are still there, and you can see the plant made a new sprout from the last year. And another thing I'll do when I'm harvesting the tea is maybe just harvest like 1/2 of the leaves on a stem. So I'll just pinch them between my fingers like that and just harvest 1/2 of the leaves. It's good to adopt that patch. And by that, I mean go back to that patch once or twice a year and harvest from it. Then you'll start to see how your harvesting is affecting the patch. It's good, of course, to rotate around so that you don't harvest too much in one area. You know, if you're forming that relationship with the patch, you're caring for it, and then it's caring for you. These Labrador tea patches are dwindling resources. They aren't as common as they used to be. And I am a firm believer that these dwindling resources need some love. When us peoples are out there gathering traditionally, I think that the patch loves that. I think that that's a relationship we've had with that patch for thousands and thousands of years. If you do go out and harvest it and have harvest parties, just make sure that you teach people how to walk through these patches lightly and how to harvest so it doesn't hurt the plant. Other cultures have used this tea for really similar things up in Alaska, Nordic countries as well, like Norway and Sweden, and they all have a very long history of using this plant as well. And these peat bugs that it grow in take thousands of years to form as well. They grow really slowly. It's actually a moss that grows on top of more moss. And so sometimes these peat bogs are soft and spongy when you walk in them. It's really cool. Because it takes these bogs so long to form, and because they're so acidic, they end up preserving organic materials in them. Scientists can take pollen cores, and then you can analyze that soil to see what pollen existed in that area thousands of years ago. They also serve as a natural carbon sink. All these organics accumulate in these peat bogs, and they get locked up in the bog. In early contact times, when settlers were commodifying all of our natural resources and selling them as compost, basically, and they would also sell it as a fuel source. They would actually burn peat moss, and that is kind of a double negative effect because it takes so long for these peat bogs to form, and their carbon sinks. So normally they would lock up that carbon and keep it out of the atmosphere. All that thousands of years of carbon was just released, poof. Nowadays, local governments have realized how precious these resources are. And if anyone wants to disturb them for any reason, there's a ton of permits and fees that people have to pay. But as we know, if money gets involved, they can be destroyed. So if you find a tea bog near you, form a relationship with it and be an advocate for it. Then when we get home from the tea patch, we need to dry our harvest. It's best to process them as soon as you get home. So you can take and put your tea on a clean window screen that's suspended above the ground. And then you just want to spread the tea out so that it gets good airflow all around. Just leave it on the screen for about a week or so until it's completely dry. Once it's completely dry, then you can put it into a mason jar, seal the top, and store it pretty much indefinitely. But you want to try to drink it, within a year or two. The medicine's best if used up in that time. And then you can make some tea. We'll just want to get a pot, 4 cups, 5 cups worth of water. We want to wait for our water to get boiling before we add the tea. And then once we get it boiling, go ahead and turn down the temperature a little bit. Throw our tea in there. Give it a little stir. Keep these leaves at a nice simmer. And then we're just going to leave that on the stove for about 5 minutes at a really low simmer. We're really going to be watching for the color of the water, a kind of copper color. You don't want to overcook it or else it'll get really bitter. You see that water down there is starting to become a little more tan. You can see in there the water is a nice warm copper color. We're going to go ahead and pour this through our strainer into a nice jar. And that's exactly the color we want for tea. This tea can be drank hot, just how it is. You can add a little bit of sugar to it. You can add a little squeeze of fresh lemon juice. That's really good. You can also chill it and drink it like iced tea. I'd like to take a minute to thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something from this video. I also want to thank all my elders who've taught me about these plant medicines, and thanks to all the various ethnobotanists in the world who share their material online to help young ones like me help learn about how to make use of these plants and take care of them in our territory. And I hope that you all can take these lessons with you where you go, and I hope that you can bring some of this Indian tea to your people. So, hoichka, tikuitsid.